Hi everyone, my name is Wayne Wallace and welcome to the Sunday Success Coaching Call and Webinar. I'm super excited because today I'm going to be sharing some cool stuff with you that you can use immediately to improve your life and business and move the needle in a positive direction towards reaching your goals. Every week I seek to learn some new things that are related to being more successful, and I shared them with you here on the webinar and call. Maybe you already know about these things, or maybe you'll learn something new. And maybe you've heard them in the past, and maybe you just need to hear them again because last time you heard them, you weren't in the right space to take advantage of them and implement them. So hopefully today you're in the right space and you'll be able to take advantage of the things that I share with you. And I'd love for you to join me on the webinar. If you're dialed into the phone call, you can join me on the webinar by going to successcoachingwebinar.com. That'll take you right to the webinar page, and you can just log in and join me right now. So if you're only dialed in on the phone, don't worry about it. I'll be explaining what's on my screen so you won't miss out on anything, because I also publish this later on as an audio-only presentation on the podcast channel on Podbean. So if you ever want to listen to that, you can just go to successcoachingpodcast.com and you can listen to all the past recordings there. If you'd like to watch any of the past webinars, you can also find those on my YouTube channel. If you go on YouTube and search for Success Coaching with Wayne, you'll find my channel there, and you can watch the past webinars there. We also have a Facebook group, so if you'd like to interact during the webinar or after the webinar, or before next week's webinar, you can do that in the Success Coaching Facebook group. Just go online and do a search on Facebook for Success Coaching with Wayne Wallace, and you'll find that group. Just request to be added, and I'll add you. And usually at the top of that group, I have a pin post where you can comment and interact with me. And that way I'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. So let's jump right into it. If you want to find any of the information that I've just talked about, you can always go to waynewallace.com and check that out as well. So first of all, I'd like to acknowledge you for being here on the live call or listening to the recording. Because you're here, it means you're serious about your success, and I congratulate you for being here, because there's only about 5% of the population that will do anything to take a progressive step towards their success. So you're one of the 5%, so I congratulate you on that. So pop a bottle of champagne and have a toast to yourself. So today on the agenda, I've got a couple of topics. Developing a millionaire mindset. That's a very important thing. Turning problems into opportunities. And then red pill or blue pill. I'm going to offer you a red pill or a blue pill and see which one you take. So the first topic here is developing the millionaire mindset. So this may be a new concept for you. You may have never thought, that you can be a millionaire. So I'd love for you to interact with me on the Facebook group if you think this is something, or if this is something that you've done before or haven't done. You can go to the Facebook group, Success Coaching with Wayne, and interact with me there. So I did a little research, and I found a great YouTube video by Jack Canfield. So if you jump on YouTube and do a search, you'll find that, and I'll go ahead and post that in the Facebook group later on so you know which one I'm talking about, but it's pretty easy to find. It was top on the list. And in that video, Jack talks about resetting your internal thermostat. So we all know what a thermostat is in our home. If we set it to 78 degrees, and the temperature fluctuates, it keeps the home, right at 70 degrees plus or minus a couple of degrees. So he said that we need to retrain or reprogram our subconscious mind and think differently about money, okay? The conscious mind is what controls our intentions and our goals, and the subconscious mind is what holds your programmed beliefs that you've had probably since childhood. So what we need to do is we need to reprogram that subconscious mind because, you may have limiting beliefs, and we need to reset that. So he gave a great kind of metaphor. He said, imagine there's 100 horses hooked up to a cart or a chariot or whatever you want to imagine that they're hooked up to. And 15 of them are pulling one direction, and then 85 of them are pulling in another direction. And he said the 15 that are pulling in one direction, that's like your conscious mind. Okay, you have good intentions, you have good goals and things like that, but then the 85 are actually pulling in a different direction, and that's your subconscious mind. It actually has more power over you than your conscious mind. So that's why when we want to do things and we don't do them, it's because of our subconscious mind. So he gave a few tips, and it's the 3 you see here on the screen. And if you're not looking at the screen, I'll read them out to you. Tip number 1 is identify and release limiting beliefs. So some of the limiting beliefs you may have are money doesn't grow on what? Trees, right? If you answered that, then you have that limiting belief, or at least you've heard that enough times to know that saying. It's selfish to want money, or money is the root of all evil, right? I don't have what it takes to make that kind of money. So there's a whole bunch of things, but if you have any of those kind of limiting beliefs, like how can I make $1 million, then you need to erase those, get rid of those. And how can you do that? Well, with step number 2, that's, write out some affirmations that go against those limiting beliefs and reinforce or reprogram your subconscious mind with the beliefs that you are good enough and you can do it. So I've got a couple of examples here that I wrote out. One is, I have enough money to buy anything I want. So a lot of times, we get into a discussion with someone about buying something and we say, I don't have the money. Okay, that's actually a limiting belief. The way to rephrase that is, I have enough money, but I choose not to purchase that right now. Okay, that's a more positive way of saying that doesn't hold you to that limiting belief of being poor and not having enough money. Next one is, I constantly find abundance everywhere I look. So instead of having I don't have enough, I can never find enough, I can never get enough attitude, then if you constantly say this affirmation to yourself of, I constantly find abundance everywhere I look, then you're going to have a more abundant mindset and outlook on life. And opportunities are going to flow to you because of that. We attract what we think about constantly. And then the next one I have for you is, I have what it takes to be a multi-millionaire. Why stop at 1 million? Let's talk about several million. So, write out a whole list of these affirmations And what I like to do is I like to put them in my calendar as an appointment, and then they pop up throughout the day, and I can just repeat them. And it's good to repeat them out loud with confidence and belief that it is true in this moment. Even if it's not true, you know, you still want to say it as if it is true in this very moment. So that's a great way to reprogram the subconscious mind. And then you want to act like you're already there. You don't want to, say these things and then go act, the opposite way. I mean, obviously you can't go out and buy a big house or a big boat or whatever because you don't maybe have the money right now. But if you have the mindset of I have the money to buy it, but I just choose not to because I'm choosing to become wealthy, in other ways, and not waste my money on things like that, then you can practice as if you're already there. So I got some homework for you, and this is one of the things Jack recommends, is get out a checkbook and write yourself a check of how much you want to make in 2018. Or if you want to future date it, say for 5 or 10 years, future date it and make it a bigger check. And then don't worry, you can't cash that check. Just, write it to yourself and, paste it up somewhere where you can see it all the time. Okay? I heard a story about Jim Carrey, and he actually wrote himself $1 million check. And after he got paid like $20 million for doing the mask, he said, I guess that check that I wrote myself, I can cash now. So, if Jim Carrey can do it, you can too. Okay? So, the next topic I'd like to discuss with you is problems are just opportunities. So there's been, many times in my life where, I ran into a down period or, things drastically changed in my life. And at the time, it may be hard to see those things as opportunities. But when I look back over the years at those situations or areas in my life, I realized that, yeah, they were just opportunities for me to go in a different direction and do something else. So you're going to be presented with challenges in life or problems or situations, and the good thing to do is realize that these are just opportunities for you to make a change or a pivot and go in a new direction or do something different with your life or the way you've been doing things. In sales, it's often said that when someone objects to a sale that you're trying to make, maybe they think your price is too high or they don't need your product right now, or they got to talk with their other half. A lot of sales mentors will tell you that that's just an opportunity for you to make the sale, because the fact that they're objecting to something just means they want to continue having the conversation. They're not really saying that, but they're not just flat out saying no either. So if they object to something, that means that there's it's usually a deeper objection. It's not the surface objection. So what you need to do is you need to dig down and find that true objection, and there's usually just one of them. It may truly be that they don't have the money, or maybe they don't really need your product at this point, or maybe it's just not the right timing. So don't be scared off by objections, because they can be opportunities for you to actually make a sale. You just have to dig a little bit deeper. Sometimes we are forced into an objection. Into a problem. We're forced into it. And sometimes we're just comfortable. And in our comfort, we get lazy and we're like, yeah, things are going great. My business is great or my job is great. And then we need to be the one to initiate a change or do something different because we're in a comfortable spot. And a lot of times people don't feel like making a change because they're comfortable. So if you ever feel comfortable, then that's a good time to look at yourself and see maybe what you need to be doing to up the game, okay? So typically, the bigger the problem that you have, the bigger the opportunity is. So just realize that if you're in a situation that's a big problem in your mind, then there's usually a big opportunity associated with that. I did some research and I found out about the start of Uber because I knew a little bit of the story, but I figured I'd do some research on it so I could tell you the real story. And what I found out was one of the founders, Travis Kalanick, the reason that he started Uber was because he was hiring a private chauffeur driver, limo driver, for him and a bunch of friends for a New Year's Eve event, and it was going to cost him about $800. And he said, well, shoot, there should be an app that we could use to call a ride and share the cost. And that's basically how the idea of Uber came up. So sometimes it's just you see a need for a product or a service in the marketplace, and you go about creating that. And look at the success of Uber. You could create something like that doesn't even exist yet. Thanks to digital, we have all kinds of new opportunities out there. It's changing many, many industries. I've seen a lot of changes in the photography industry. As you may know, I'm a photographer. Started with film, and now we've got a lot of digital opportunities in the photography industry. So keep an eye out for those kinds of opportunities that you can capitalize on. The big thing now is AI, right? Artificial intelligence. So there's going to be a lot of things happening around artificial intelligence. In the security industry, there's a lot of things happening with internet security. So a lot of great opportunities out there. And then a lot of old opportunities are going to disappear, like drivers, truck drivers, any kind of delivery person, any kind of driver like an Uber driver or a Lyft driver. Those are all temporary jobs. A lot of people think, oh, I'm an Uber driver now. This is great. Well, that job's not going to last probably another 5 years at the most, because pretty soon we're going to have self-driving cars on the road, and all those people are going to be replaced. So if you're a driver of any type or a delivery person of any type, then your job is not going to be around in the future. Just like many people that used to work in bookstores, their jobs aren't around anymore. And like many other industries, things are changing. So be on the lookout for opportunities where you can move into a career or a certain industry that's not going to be affected by digital and the new technologies coming out. So let's think about building a bridge between the can't do and the can do attitude. A lot of times, we have that limiting belief and we say, well, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that, or I'm not smart enough to do that. So, think about building that bridge. It's a good analogy between the can and the can't and the can do. Make that shift in your thinking. So anytime you hear the word can't in your mind, then think about building that bridge. Think about that bridge to the can do. Okay? I heard a little story from Elon Musk while I was researching information for this call and webinar, and he told a story about when he started his first company, and I'm not sure which company he was talking about, but when he started his first company, him and his partner, they had to sleep in the office on the couches because they couldn't afford a place to live. They had an office, but they couldn't afford a place to live, so they would sleep on the couch and then they would go to the YMCA and shower, and they only had one computer. And they had a website, so they would host their website on their own computer system. And so during the day, the website was up and running, and then at night, they would program on that computer when the traffic was non-existent or not as much, and that way they could, use some of the resources of the computer and not impact their business during the day. So there's always a creative solution to a problem. So if you're facing a problem or a situation, think about how you can make a shift and build that bridge, okay? And don't just be a victim, flip it around and make it into a solution. So one person that was great at doing this was, of course, Steve Jobs. And, if you haven't really seen his story or know his story, then I highly recommend either reading a book or watching a movie on it. He's got a great story. And, he was really the driving force behind Apple. A lot of people will say that they really haven't done anything innovative since Steve died. And I would tend to agree with that. They've just kind of continued on the path that he laid out. And, supposedly they're coming out with a car, but who knows when that's going to happen. But I think Steve, that was his kind of last big project that kind of he set the vision for. So we'll see what they do in the future. They certainly have a lot of money in the bank, so they should be able to last for some years. So he had this great quote that was part of the original movie or commercial that aired, with the runner that came with the hammer and threw it through the screen. And this was, I believe, a full-page ad too. And this was just a small part. But the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. So if you don't know that full quote, go look that up. It's a great quote. And this is, one little part of it here that I shared with you. So now it's time for me to give you a choice. You've probably seen the movie The Matrix, and if you haven't, I highly recommend going and watching that. And as you know, in that movie, if you saw it, where Morpheus confronted Neo, and Neo was wondering, what is this thing called the Matrix? He was a hacker, and he found out, he heard about the Matrix online in the back channels of the web, and he was like, what is this thing called the Matrix? And so he sat down with Morpheus, and Morpheus said, I've got a red pill and a blue pill. And he said, you take the blue pill and the story ends. You wake up in your bed and you believe what you want to believe. You take the red pill and you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. And that's a great analogy for many things. And the thing I want to relate it to today is you and what your future is. Because you probably have a day job, right? You go to work for, 4 to 8 hours a day. You may have several day jobs, a couple part-time jobs, but you don't have a plan B. And a plan B is some kind of side game, some kind of side hustle. Maybe you have a little business that you run on the side, or you have a website where you sell some stuff. But if you don't have that, I highly recommend creating one, getting it going, get a revenue stream, created and started from that, build it up, and then create something else. Create another business or another revenue stream. You want to have multiple revenue streams. We live in a day and age where you can't just have, the career job and work at it for 40 or 50 years and retire and get a gold watch, okay, and a retirement plan. Those days are pretty much gone. My story, just so you know, my story is I had kind of a job like that. Was with a really good company, software company, one of the top, top 5 companies in the world today still. And I got laid off. And, I didn't think I'd be getting laid off anytime soon. But, ultimately they only care about the stockholders and the stock price. And they just cut people left and right that were really good people, And it's all about just getting the number down to be looking good for the stock, holders. So you always want to have a plan B and some kind of side thing that you can build up an income stream that will allow you to survive and thrive and go for that $1 million or multi-million-dollar income. So I'm going to offer you the red pill and the blue pill. Which one do you want? Do you want to break free from your job, or do you just want to basically go back into the matrix and go to your job every day and work your 4 to 8 hours and take whatever your boss tells you to do? It's up to you. All right. I'd like to give you another little productivity tip. I like to give you one of these every week, a little tool that I find or use. This week I'm going to talk about Close. It's a CRM, which is a customer relationship manager or a client relationship manager. It's basically a database, and it allows you to track all of your communications with prospects and clients and just people you interact with. So whenever I meet someone, I put them into my Close database. And whenever I email them through my Close database. Whenever I have a phone call, I track it in my Close database. And I can set reminders and remind myself to follow up with people. Because if you're in your own business, then you constantly want to be out there finding new prospects and new potential sources of revenue, right? And you need to follow up with people. And if you listen to any kind of sales mentor or teacher or trainer, they're going to tell you about follow-up. And it's all about the follow-up. Like, that's the secret to success, is the follow-up. Because people aren't going to buy from you on the first contact. They may not buy from you on the 5th contact. They may not buy from you until the 12th or 30th contact. You may be following up with someone for 3 years before they buy from you. But it's all about building that relationship, and it's all about following up with them. And there are certain techniques and tactics that you can use in your follow-ups, and I'll be talking about those kind of things in future webinars and calls. So I invite you to come back and stay in the conversation. But I really like Close. I looked at a bunch of CRMs before I decided on using Close. I looked at Salesforce. I looked at, all kinds of different ones. And they were all either complicated or expensive. And I really like Close because it integrates with your existing email. So if you have Gmail or your own server like I do, you can integrate it in with all of your different emails, because I have several different emails, and I can send email from whichever account that I want. And then it also ties in with your cell phone provider, so it can track what calls you've made and who you've talked to, how long you've talked to them. And then, like I said, you can set reminders. You can look at people's other information like social media, kind of see what they're doing online. So it's a really good tool for kind of getting intelligence about your prospects and what they're up to, and keeping those relationships all organized. And as a little side point, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this guy was kind of an artificial intelligence expert, and he was talking about how now, but especially in the future, artificial intelligence is going to be able to help us dramatically in this area. And actually, Close has a little bit of artificial intelligence in it, and they help you categorize and organize things with artificial intelligence. And the more data you have about your clients and the interactions that you have with them, the more artificial intelligence will be able to help you maybe even predict when you're going to make sales with people and help you develop a communication cycle or plan for that customer. So I try and track everything I possibly can about my interactions with people, either on a spreadsheet or in close. And I recommend you do the same thing. So what you want to do is take action each day. Just do something every day. And as Tony Robbins says, if you just try and improve by 1% every day, just imagine where you'll be a year from now. And one of the ways that you can improve each day is by joining me on the Daily Success Podcast. So if you just go to dailysuccesspodcast.com and you can listen in on the web, or you can download the Anchor app, which is becoming very popular. It was just #1 on the iTunes store. It's a very cool app. If you want to create your own podcast, you can, or you can just listen to other people's podcasts as a listening kind of tool. But I love it. It's a great phone app. It allows you to create a podcast very easily, just like you're just talking on the phone, and then you can publish it for the world. So my podcast now is published on both the Apple iTunes and the Google Play music stores. So people can find them there, and I invite you to go there and subscribe and then listen to them on the podcast, on the Anchor podcast app as well. So the other cool thing you can do with Anchor is you can call in. So you wouldn't be calling in live per se. What you do is you call in and leave a message, and then I get a notification, and I can either choose to publish your message on the next podcast or not. And if you'd like to call in and give me some feedback, I encourage you to do that. Tell me what you liked. If you have any additional information or questions about what I talked about, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And if you'd like me to share your comment, then just let me know that, and I'll share it on the podcast so other people can hear what you talked about. And now they've just added a new feature where if multiple people have the Anchor app, they can all call in together and do like a joint podcast, even if they're in remote locations. So they're really advancing the tool. It's audio is really becoming a very much used thing, and it will be even more so in the future, because you have things like the Amazon Echo and Google Home, which are constantly listening to you for anything that you may want to say, right? And you can say, hey, Google, play this for me, or hey, Alexa, play this for me, and they'll play an audio for you. So audio is becoming a very kind of trendy thing now. So you may want to look into using audio. A lot of companies are going to start using audio because of those devices. So it's just like when Amazon first came out, they didn't really think about reviews becoming such a driving force behind Amazon. But as you know today, I mean, reviews are huge. You know, you go to Amazon to check out a review and you may go buy it in the store, right? I've done that before. So you never know where things are going to go. I also invite you to register for a free personal success coaching session with me. You can visit my website at successcoachingwithwayne.com and just register, and we'll sit down on the phone privately and chat, and I'll help you with any questions or thoughts that you may have about what you want to do to be more successful in life or in business. And I'd like for you to store my information on your phone, so if you ever need me, you can get a hold of me easily. You can call me directly or text me directly at 702-238-9413. That's my direct cell number. And then you can also email me at wayne@waynewallace.com. Those are my two direct contact methods. And then finally, I invite you to stay in the conversation throughout the week. You can do that on Facebook by going to the Success Coaching with Wayne Facebook group. You can also download the GroupMe app, which is a pretty cool app. It allows you to create groups and kind of do text messaging and sharing of pictures and stuff like that within the group. And then if you'd like to get text updates on your phone from me throughout the week, you can text the word Shazam to the number 38470. And it's a short code, so you just text the message Shazam to that short code, and it'll ask you what your email is, and then you'll be in my system, and you'll get updates from me both by email and text. All right? And you can unsubscribe to that if it's too much for you. Until then, until next time, have a great Sunday. And if you're listening to the recording at a later date, have a great day. And I'll see you on one of my channels.